Hey, what's happening, everybody? I hope everybody's doing well. Today is Tuesday. So, you know what that means? It's Tune Up Tuesday. And I'm Dietrich Wallace, and I just want to drop this lesson right on y'all right quick. So many times that, you know, God has shut doors, God has rejected certain things, and we don't have those opportunities anymore. And a lot of the reason that we can't heal and go forward from that is because we keep nursing the hurt. We keep nursing thoughts of what could have been or what should have been, but they're not. You know, one thing about grief is that we need to understand that grief is when you've suffered a loss over something. I mean, you've suffered a loss and you regret that you lost something, but at the same time, you've got to get up and you got to move forward. You can grieve over a lost opportunity. You could have lost possessions, all those things. You could have lost that man, that woman that was in your life. You could have lost so many different things. But at the same time, we've got to get up and we've got to move forward. And today's lesson is going to come from 1 Samuel chapter 16. We're going to start at verse 1 and probably go through about verse number 4 or 5. And then we're also going to look at 2 Samuel chapter 12. But the question today and that we need to ask ourselves is this: how long are we going to mourn for whatever it is we lost? How long are we going to mourn? Because when we sit there and we're grief stricken, we can't move forward. That will often paralyze us. God has so much more in store for us because anything we lost, anything that we've lost, He can replace with much better. But you can't keep looking back because you can't go back and pick up spilled milk, as my grandmother used to say. That's the thing. A lot of times we're so focused on getting back what we lost, we miss out on what's coming toward us. So let's go ahead and let's jump in this lesson. And we're going to go from there. And we're going to see why we need to ask ourselves this very question: how long are we going to mourn? Let's get into it. Again, it's 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 1. That's where we're going to start at. But we need to understand something. We're talking about the prophet Samuel. And the Lord's going to ask Samuel, how long are you going to mourn for Saul? Because Samuel anointed Saul to be king. So he had something invested into Saul. And yes, Saul made a mistake. Saul made a mistake by not waiting on Samuel to do the sacrifice. And because of that, he lost his kingdom. Even though at this point in time, he's still sitting on the throne. But this is where David gets anointed by by Samuel. So because of his own actions, he lost something. Just like me and you, we've all lost something due to our own actions. But even though we lost it, we still got to move forward. So here we go. Verse number 1. And the Lord said unto Samuel, how long wilt thou mourn for Saul, seeing I have rejected him from reigning over Israel? Fill thine horn with oil, and go. And I will send thee to Jesse the Bethlehemite, for I have provided me a king among his sons. Now we know that Jesse is King David's father. And Samuel said, how can I go? If Saul hear it, he will kill me. And the Lord said, take a heifer with thee, and say, I am come to sacrifice to the Lord, and call Jesse to the sacrifice, and I will show thee what thou shalt do, and thou shalt anoint unto me him whom I name unto thee. And it says in verse 4, and Samuel did that which the Lord spake, and came to Bethlehem. And the elders of the town trembled at his coming, and said, comest thou peaceably? And if you keep going, you're going to see where Samuel carries out the instructions that the Lord has given him. But now, the thing we need to understand about this is you got to get up. You got to get up and go on. Just like Scripture tells us right here, Samuel got up and he went. And it says that God had rejected him, had rejected Saul. And Samuel knew that. How often are we trying to open doors that God has closed? How often are we trying to drag people back into our lives that they've walked out, they've walked away? How many times have we tried to get back an opportunity that is no longer available? In that sense, we're trying to get these things back, and we cause ourselves more hurt and pain. We can't move forward, like I said before, until we let go. You've got to stop nursing the hurt. You've got to stop nursing the feelings that you have, because the feelings of regret. You're not going to be able to open your hands to receive the blessings that God has for you if you keep holding on to what's in the past. You're not going to be able to do that. You're not. So that being said, you have to keep going. It may be painful at first. Yeah, there may be weeping, but we know that Scripture tells us that weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Now let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 12, and we're going to read about something else. We're going to see how King David handled when the baby that was conceived in adultery from Bathsheba, Uriah the Hittite's wife, the one that he conceived in adultery. We're going to see how David handled it when that child passed away. Let's take a look. Let's see here. And it says here in verse 15 of 2 Samuel chapter 12, and Nathan departed unto his house, and the Lord struck the child that Uriah's wife bare unto David, and it was very sick. David therefore besought God for the child, and David fasted and went in and lay all night upon the earth. And the elders of his house arose and went to him to raise him up from the earth, but he would not, neither did he eat bread with them. And it came to pass on the 7th day that the child died. And the servants of David feared to tell him that the child was dead, for they said, Behold, while the child was yet alive, we spake unto him, and he would not hearken unto our voice. How will he then vex himself if we tell him that the child is dead? Verse 19. And when David saw that the servants whispered, David perceived that the child was dead, and therefore David said unto his servants, Is the child dead? And they said, He is dead. Verse 20. Then David arose from the earth and washed and anointed himself and changed his apparel and came into the house of the Lord and worshiped. Then he came into his own house, and when he required that they set bread before him, he did eat. Then said his servants unto him, What thing is this that thou hast done? Thou didst fast and weep for the child while it was alive, when the child was dead. But when the child was dead, thou didst arise and eat bread. And he said, While the child was yet alive, I fasted and wept. For I said, Who can tell whether God will be gracious to me, that the child may live? But now he is dead, wherefore should I fast? And can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me. Now, I know that was a lengthy passage. That was about, that was from 15 through 23. So let's talk about what it was saying here. It's simple. While you had that opportunity, yeah, you fasted, you prayed about it, what have you. But when that opportunity was gone, just as when the child was alive, David fasted and hoped God would give him grace and be merciful for the child. But when he was dead, meaning for us, when that opportunity is gone, that possession is gone, that person is gone, what did David do? David got up. He washed, anointed himself, he changed clothes, and he moved forward. And that's the thing you got to get from all this. We can't sit back. We can't sit back and become paralyzed with regret, with grief. We've got to move forward. That's the biggest thing. Stop nursing the hurt. Yeah, you got to feel it to heal it. But once that happens, you got to move forward. Just as David washed himself and anointed himself, hey, you got to just put this thing back together. It's not going to be an overnight process, but at the same time, it's a process that each of us has to go through. That is the one thing that I want everybody to get out of this lesson. Stop nursing the hurt. No matter what has happened to you, if you sit there and you meditate on it and you keep going back over and over and over it again, it's not going to help you move forward ultimately if you just stay in one spot, because you can't move forward if you keep looking backwards. You've got to move forward. Get up, dust yourself off, wash yourself off, and keep going. But there's somebody that I know that can tell you to arise. It's going to be better if you just trust in him. And his name is Jesus. Just like the woman who had the issue of blood for so many years. Once she touched the hem of his garment, once he said, "Woman, thou art loosed." Man, you can be loosed. Woman, you can be loosed from this burden if you'll just cast it on Jesus. Because he said he cares for you. That's what I want everybody to get. Today, going forward, stop nursing the hurt. You gotta get past it, no matter how hard it may be at the beginning, but you gotta make that first step. And when you make that first step, God will be right there with you to help you make another one. I hope this has enriched somebody's life. And I'll talk to y'all on Sunday, good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. Thank you for all your comments and support. Talk to y'all later. Bye.